This is my 3 lessons for my lesson plan assignment for this class. My first before I start, I should say my guideline, which is PK4 B2, child observes, this is for science. Child observes, describes, and discusses the life cycles of different organisms. So my first lesson is a bean life cycle. So the bean life cycle. So this would be a whole class precipitation. That's not right. A whole class of activity. And so you would need a bean, a damp, and this is damp, a damp paper towel, and a felt bag. So you would put the paper towel into this felt bag, and then put the bean on top, and shut the bag. So it would look something like that. And then you would tape the bag to the window where there's sunlight, anywhere where it can get sun. And this is something that could be done over several days, maybe even weeks, depending on how you want to do it. But this assignment is works really well for this age group because they're able to watch it as it's happening. And you don't really ever really get to see a seed, have roots and start to form. It's will sprout and become what we see come out of the ground because there's dirt in a pod or whatever else blocking all that. So you don't really get to see that very often. So this is a really good way for them to be able to see it, and it also gives them the opportunity to learn about the life cycle of a plant and how the life starts and the different motions that it goes through as it's becoming an adult plant. So that's it for the first lesson. Scroll down to my second lesson. My second lesson is a group of coloring pages. So this I have the life cycle of a butterfly, but then you would also have life cycle of a frog, life cycle of a ladybug as well. And I've already labeled mine. So you can label them and obviously they're 5-year-olds, so they don't really know how to write. But I labeled mine. You can even have them already labeled for them. I put this already in my my document before I even realized. I was like, oh no, they actually don't know how to write. They're 5 years old, which was a good realization for me. So I wrote this on here, so you can already, so the teacher can write it down on the papers or have it typed out so that they can see it and have it labeled for them. But I've already labeled mine, so I have egg, larva, pupa, and adult, and then they can as they're sitting at the table, they would have all 3. So they would have the butterfly, ladybug, the butterfly, ladybug, and frog. And you would kind of talk them through each, so you can kind of ask them you can ask them even guided questions through it. So you could say something so we're starting at the egg. So here's the egg. What do you think would be the next one? What's the next step in our life cycle process? And so they could say, oh, it's gonna be this one because this is the next step. Or maybe they even might say this one. You can kind of help to guide them through it, and you can ask them guided questions about it so that they're able to use their critical thinking skills. And then also have them color it too. I think seeing it and using your eyes, using your touch and your hands and coloring and doing all that, using your hand-eye coordination helps to better in code and helps to better secure it in long-term memory, which obviously is important for memory and for remembering stuff, remembering information. So that's for this one. And then for the last one, I thought, so it's for the Very Hungry Caterpillar. I thought I owned the book. I do not. So I don't actually have it with me, but for this lesson, the teacher would read to either whole class or a small group. All three of these would be small group. But this would be like in a small group situation. And I would also give each of the students a copy of the book. And obviously they can't read the words, but just looking at it and seeing it, it helps some of them like visualize a little better. So they're looking at the pictures and they're seeing it, and it kind of helps them make connections a little better. This is, I think, a really good lesson because they've already seen this book. They've either read it at home or read it in class or whatever else. They've seen this book before. It's something that is it's a very common book, so they've seen it before, and you're putting a connection between something that they already know, something they've already seen, and something that they're learning. And that is going to help them form those connections, form those kind of pathways in their mind, and help them remember things better. So I would have them read, or I would read them the book, have them following along with me and looking at the pictures and doing all that stuff. And I would also be asking them guided questions. So like, for example, the caterpillar is obviously eating all this food, and a question could be, what happens after the caterpillar eats this food? And you can even like draw it back to this, right? You can draw it back to the life cycle of butterfly, because obviously that's what it is, butterfly. And you can say like, can you point to me where the caterpillar is? Where in the stage of the life cycle is he? And you could say, oh, he's an egg, or he's a larva. You don't really see him as an egg, I don't think. And you say, oh, he's a larva, he's eating all this food, and then he gets really big, and then he becomes a pupa, he forms a little chrysalis, and then he's there for a while, and he comes out, he's a beautiful butterfly. And you can kind of have them point to the different spots in the life cycle. So they're making all these connections, they're forming connections for all these different lessons that you've done with them for the life cycle, which helps form better memory and a better connection of the information. So yeah, that's my lesson plans.